Hello, welcome to Measuring Success Right. I'm here today with Carlos and Romanna Remor. She is a former deputy of the Federal Congress of Brazil, as well as an entrepreneur and the current president of Roble del Sur. Now, Romanna, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself, just to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yes, thank you for having me here. It's such a pleasure to be back and to BYU after so many years because I'm also an alumni of BYU and of the Marriott School of Management. So you can imagine how happy it is for me to be here with you. I'm also a social entrepreneur besides Roble del Sur. I've been involved since I graduated from BYU in many different projects and non-governmental organizations. And above all, I am a mother of a now BYU student. She barely started this fall, and a wife and a member of the church. I think those three roles are the most important and fulfilling to me.
Wow, that's amazing. We're super excited to actually have people from all over the world that had their experience here at BYU studying, and they can take those values and those things to other places in the world. And the Marriott Business School, we have um, our core values. They are faith in Christ, integrity in action, respect for all, and excellence. Have you seen in your life these values applying to your roles that you're having right now?
Oh, definitely. Um, I have, well, first of all, um, being an MPA student um, at the Marriott School of Management um, for sure made a difference in my career path and the choices I made, not just the determined career choices many years ago regarding where I would be going, where I would be heading, which career, which area, professional area I would pursue, but how I would do it too. And it's been still very impactful in many of the initiatives and endeavors I've involved with, and mostly because I chose to pursue a career in the political arena, and which for me wasn't exactly a professional career because for me it was I understood it and I took it as a mission through my profession, but it was in such a complex area that these values, integrity, excellence, Christ-like, developing Christ-like attributes, they were a lighthouse for me in the political arena and anywhere in the world. We know how it is difficult to not just maintain our values, but to be able to have a voice and to advance the things that we believe in and that are so dear to us. And so these values were key to me. They helped me never to lose my focus, especially because when you talk about politics, it involves power, and if you want money, and usually when it involves money, it's not with integrity. It's in ways that are not whole ways, that are not good ways. And so yes, definitely, I would say that the knowledge and the skills that I that I learned here were very important, but the soft skills and the values that were reinforced were fundamental.
That's amazing.
What drove you to start a career in the public sector? I find this so interesting. Like, what drove you into government?
Okay, well, it has everything to do with the MPA program too. But since I was younger, that was something that would catch my interest. In Brazil, we had just gone through the redemocratization process. So when I was around 12, we had just elected our first elected president after the military regime. And there was turmoil, as natural as it was. And I would go walking to school with my younger brother. And on the walls of the city I lived, there would be so many words of protest written with, how do you say, like when people...
Oh, graffiti?
Yes, graffiti. Saying things like, we want to impeach the current president, or, words of protest like that. And I would read those things, even right before the process of redemocratization. Then those things would be asking for elections, for the electoral process. And I would get to school, and some of my teachers told me later that I would get to class and ask them what that meant, why it was written, who was that person whose name was there, and it was object of protest. And when we had civic celebrations, my friends didn't like it. I loved it. I loved to participate in. And so usually the teachers would ask me to write a poem or to recite our official national anthems or hymns or things like that. And I had a different feeling when I did that. Like when we would listen to our anthem, when I would see our flag, even, younger, that had a meaning to me. But I didn't know what it was and, what to do about it. So I started studying law right after I graduated from high school in Brazil. In my third semester, I had one class that opened my eyes and heart. It was a political science class. And even though I liked law, I thought, well, this is what I would like to study, I think. But we didn't have any university there that had a political science major at the time. So I had to pause attending school because of financial constraints. And I decided that if I would be able to come back, I wouldn't return to that law school and to study law. I would try and study political science. So I started researching BYU, and I found out that they had a very robust political science department. And I thought about applying. I decided to. It was something very distant to me, to my reality, to the circumstances of my family. And so it was indeed like something difficult, hard, very challenging. For almost 2 years, I was in the process of application. We didn't have email at the time, so we would send the application through post mail, and then all the documents that they would ask after the translations, official transcripts, so many things, letters of recommendations. And nobody in my family knew that I was in that process, because I tried to talk to them. It was something so distant that they didn't take me seriously. So I kept that to myself to see if it would work. And then after almost 2 years, I got the expected letter saying that I had been accepted. So we gathered the few resources that we had. My mom supported me 100% when she found out that I had been accepted. And I know that that was a very hard decision for her because she was a widow and I was the closest daughter, and I helped even financially at home. And we were very close, and so she was very supportive of that. And I ended up coming. I was able to take many political science classes, and I chose to complete a MBA in international relations with an emphasis in international political economy. During this period, I was able to go to Brazil as a researcher for the department and also as a research assistant to one of my professors, one of the poli-sci professors, and help with research in the Brazilian Congress and in our political system. So while I was there, one of my responsibilities was to research about the political party system there. We have about 30 parties in Brazil. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
And that puzzled me. And after deeply researching them and interviewing party leaders and Congress people from different spectrums of our political arena there was one party that I was pleased with because the vice president belonged to this party, and he believed that the political reform was the most necessary, and that was my political science professor idea and mine as well, that it would be like the most needed reform, the political reform. So I decided, well, before I go back to BYU, I'm gonna get my affiliation to this party. And so I did it, and I went to the state headquarters and presented myself, and I said, well, this is my name, I'm conducting a research here, I just got my affiliation done, and maybe one day I'll come back, so I just wanted to get to know you and for you to get to know me. I came back, finished, completed the degree, and was accepted into the MPA program. And that was that will answer your question. So first year I was liking it so much because it was the practical application of so many of the theories that I had come into contact during my BA here at BYU. And then I started working with the coordinator of the department, and he was writing an article about natural capitalism, a different concept on the economy. I would say that it would be something like regenerative capitalism nowadays, or circular economy. I can see many principles that are common to these ideas. And he said that in his initial research, there were some cities in Brazil that were a good example of natural capitalism in the public sector. One of them was the capital of my state, and the other was the capital of a neighboring state. And he asked if I would be willing to go with him and his wife to Brazil for a month and deepen the research. Of course, I would be able to even visit my family because part of it would be my home state, and then come back. And the subject of the research interested me a lot. So we did what we were headed to. It was wonderful, wonderful. And when we were almost getting ready to return here, there was one interview missing with a former mayor of Curitiba, a capital of a southern state, and one of the cities with highest in how do you say in indicators? No, there's a term for that. With higher standard of living and with a background of urban planning really strong. So that's why he wanted to interview him. He was very known in Brazil, and then we would return, we would come back. So and that would be in Curitiba, right, in the capital of Paraná state. So while we were in Santa Catarina, my home state, I asked if they would like to visit the headquarters of the party I was affiliated to. And then they said that they would like to understand, the party system and talk to people there. So we went there just to say hello. I said, do you remember me? I was here about 2 years ago doing one research. Now I'm back as an MPA student. These are my professors. I just wanted to say hi again. One day I might come back. So I might see you again. And then we left to Curitiba. And it was approaching our interview with that mayor. And one morning I got this call before breakfast from the party headquarters saying that they wanted to talk to me urgently. And I called them, and the state leader said, Romanna, we need to talk to you in person. And then I said, well, it's too bad because I'm in another city now, in a different state. And in 2 days, we'll be heading to the United States. We'll be returning. So maybe, after I complete my degree, I'll probably go back and then for sure I will come. And then he said, no, but it's urgent. And then I said, well, you need to anticipate what it is because otherwise I just can't. And then he said, well, you stopped by once and then twice, and you are from this city in the southern part of our state, and we thought that you would be the ideal candidate to run for mayor there. And that city was the fourth most important city in our state. And then I said, well, I'm away from Brazil. It's been 4 years now, and I still have 1 year to go in the program, and I don't know anything about the political process there, and even I'm distant from the main things and topics of the city and the main needs and challenges. So I don't think this is possible. I tried to give like a rational and serene answer, but I wasn't believing that they had asked me that question because I was in the middle of the program, because I was 25 years old, because I had never been in the political process. Nothing made sense to me in that question. So I went to meet my professors. They were having breakfast, and I told them, and I said, you can't believe what just happened. This is like, it seems to me that it's not like real, that it was a dream. And then my professor said, Dr. Donald Adolfson, I'll never forget. I said, Romanna, what did you answer? And then I said, well, I was going to say no, but they said, please you don't have to answer now. Think about it. We'll call you in some hours. Because they probably perceived my reaction of astonishment. So I said, well, I haven't yet, but I'll say probably no, because I'm your student. I'm in the middle of the program. You're returning to the US in 2 days. And then he said, that's up to you. It's your decision. But let me ask you one question. Why do you think we are trying to create these opportunities of knowledge for you? Why do you think we are trying to help you develop skills, gather knowledge And then he said, I can tell you that it is for opportunities like this. And we would hope that our students would have opportunities like this to go and make a difference and be able to apply and use the knowledge that they developed here and make a difference. Oh, that was striking to me. I was even more astonished by listening to my professor. I had so much respect and admiration for him. And his wife was looking at me as if she were like agreeing with him. So I went back to my room and I prayed. I called my mom, and she was horrified with that.
Wow.
And then I called back the headquarters of the party, and they said, "Well, I'll at least listen to you." So, and then they said, "Okay, we'll find a way of bringing you here. Maybe we'll send a car to pick you up, but bring your luggage with you." And then I said, "Well, I haven't made a decision yet." And then they said, "In any case, bring your luggage with you." So I went, and then I stayed. What happened after that would take all the time of our conversation here. But what I can say, summarizing it is that it was a sacred experience, and that changed my life. And what came after that? I wasn't elected, even though I ran the risk of being elected at 25 in a city with many, many, many challenges. We started, nobody knew me. There was a lot of resistance because I was a woman, I was young, and I didn't come from a family that had a tradition in politics. We didn't have, like, my family was a humble family there. We didn't have prominence, in our region there in my city. They were very conservative. And there was a division in the political party there. One group wanted to have a candidate running for mayor, and the other wanted to support the candidate from a different party. So they were fighting, and that's why they couldn't get anyone to run for mayor. And the party had already paid for the TV program, the TV ads to be done. And so they were going to lose that. So they wanted someone to go and face the challenge and run for mayor, but they didn't tell me that there was such a division. So neither group supported me.
Oh gosh.
I was in the middle of a fight, and I ended up, being like knocked out, and I had nothing to do with, because then they were so unpleased with each other. But because I was in the middle of it, I got like I was rejected by both sides, and hopefully, and that was the most beautiful thing about it. I got a lot of support from people that didn't belong to my party even, or even any party, and that they were just, good people and citizens that shared some of the values I shared. And so they made all the difference. And so we together, I cannot say we ran the risk of almost getting elected. So I didn't, but then the party cited that, there was such a good recall of the campaign that they would invite me to run for federal Congress in the coming elections. So I stayed, and I was able to come and complete my MPA degree some years after I was already in politics, because once I debuted with that campaign for mayor, then so many years came, and I was just very involved and devoted to that mission, which was not exactly a profession, but it was a path for life.
Well, that's an amazing story, and it's really interesting because especially in Latin America, we don't have a lot of members of the church that represent our beliefs in the political arena. How do you feel that the values that you learn challenge you or help you through this process of becoming a politician in your country?
Um, I think the what we learned and what we learn still throughout our lives, but at that time, as a child and as a young woman in my young years, what I learned about serving others, and that would be a way of serving God, was probably the driving force for me to be interested in politics. And when I was in politics, the way I would see it would be a way of serving people. So um, public policies and public programs for me would be seen and understood as ways of serving people, reaching out to people, alleviating their sufferings. And so that changed, our values changed the way I see public money. For me, it's sacred money. Public money is sacred money because it is the money that is supposed to be reaching out to people that are the most vulnerable, and to give people opportunities, to build a more just world, which are values that we foster, we nurture, and we pursue, and we work for that through our faith. So I would see like so many there was so much common ground, and still it was also so ugly at the same time. But it was not politics that was ugly, it was what people would make out of it.
Well, interesting. Um, I'm going a little bit farther with your career after politics. What made you decide to go to the entrepreneurial side and try to like look for other opportunities? Like we we're also seeing that you're a president of a foundation. What made you like decide to like change and go to that path?
In a simple and concise word that the world uses a lot, it would be failure. That it could be stated like that, but failure for me has a different meaning. So going back to politics a little bit, yes, I had the opportunity to be elected as a city council member. It was such a beautiful experience, very hard, very, very challenging at the same time for me and for my family. And then I was able to be in Congress, federal Congress for a while, also through elections. But before that, I lost some elections. And then finally, I ran for mayor again of my city in a very hard election that I knew that my husband and I, he was my campaign manager, my everything, we knew that the election would be very hard. And we had decided that had I not been elected, then we would take a break to take care of our lives, because financially, professionally, emotionally, it had drained almost everything that we had. And we needed to, take care of his professional career. We needed to provide for our family, and make sure that we would have means in the future, because politics was so unstable. And when you do politics with integrity, it's not financially there is you don't make money in politics unless there are other ways, through corruption and other means, that yes, but otherwise no. not at all. And then also our family, because we were both so involved. Our daughter was young, and still, like we both thought that it was um, a wonderful, beautiful experience, even though very hard. So we decided that if not elected, then he would go back into consulting, and then we would figure, which path we would take. If I had been elected, it would be for one term, and then we would also um, make a pause in politics and do the same thing, take care of our lives. So I ran, and I didn't get elected for the second time running for mayor of my hometown. Very hard election, and we knew that the chances that the election would be cancelled, not valid, uh, were great, because the mayor that was going for re-election and that I was running against, he had been convicted for crimes in politics before, and then there's a legislation in Brazil that says that if you have like a conviction, you need to wait for 8 years until you run for something. So he was able to register his candidacy, but it wouldn't be sustained. When they would be able to evaluate the electoral court, it would be null. And it happened. So a few weeks after the elections, it was cancelled. And I had been trying to tell people, hey, he's playing with you. This is not going to be valid. Please, like, you don't have to vote on me if you don't want. But I don't think it's fair with you that, you're spending public money in this electoral process and it's going to be cancelled. And it's like 2 or 3 months campaigning, getting people to go and vote, and, moving all this electoral machine. It's going to be cancelled. So we are playing like a lie here, and I can't, because I know the truth. And then he would come and say, oh, he would deny. And unfortunately, most people believed on him until the election was cancelled. Then I couldn't do anything about it. And it was hard to see that, sometimes people need to pay the price of making bad choices. Well, then we decided to make a pause in politics. And for a year, my husband went back into consulting, and we were considering retaking our studies. I had completed the MPA degree by this time, so we were considering maybe a doctoral degree or something like that, or becoming entrepreneurs. And then we decided to become entrepreneurs, and it's been 10 years now. And meanwhile, we continue to be very active in organizations, humanitarian organizations, and so that's where we are now.
Well, that's amazing.
So how's your entrepreneurial journey been so far? Like, what have been the main lessons that you've learned over the years?
There's no easy path. Politics is not easy, but it can be fulfilling. And being an entrepreneur too, if there's purpose, at least for me and for my husband, and being an entrepreneur in countries where the economy is not stable, and the institutions are not so strong, and where the purchasing power is not as strong, for example, as in the US, plays a big part in making you resilient, because of course you face more challenges. So there needs to be purpose, because if it's something that you're passionate about, you do well, and you will add value to society. And then even with the challenges and being entrepreneurs, it's like being a politician. It's 24 hours a day almost, and except for Sundays for us, because of the Sabbath day, and you work and all days, no vacations. Like, oh, I'm gonna go on a vacation, and for these days I won't think about work. No, it's not like in politics. It never happened like that. And then as an entrepreneur also, so it's always with you. And because we worked together as partners, then you can imagine that that would be even more intense, because wherever we would go, or even at home, we would have necessarily to speak, to talk about our business. And so I would say, like, the greatest insight that I could share would be, you need to be passionate, because then despite all those things, you will wake up happy and excited for what is to come. So yes.
That's amazing. Well, I think your experience actually helps a lot, and all the international students that are actually listening to this. It's really interesting to get to know a little bit more of your story, because this is like a reflection for most of us. I'm also like studying an MPA as well as my friend here. And we have like in our class of the MPA program, we have a lot of international students, and sometimes it's kind of hard to look and find like a focus for our own cases, because like we come from different perspectives. But it's refreshing to find like this kind of perspectives, knowing, okay, we can make a change in our countries too. We can actually study this program and look for opportunities to help the people in our own places. And yeah.
Can I say something
Yeah,
about
sure.
it? And I will say this in a personal way. I will become very personal, because I cannot apply this to anyone, and we have our individuality and context and circumstances and needs and dreams. But for me, like, when there would be those career fairs in the Marriott School, that would be recurrent. And from the first one, when I saw it, I was so impressed, with all those recruiters from different companies and so many possibilities. And so I would see some of my friends, my colleagues, going and talking to those people, and learning about opportunities and possibilities. And one side of my heart wanted to go and see and check and see what could be done on it, but another side would tell me, Mana, but you need to go back to Brazil. You need to go and try to do your part there, because here almost like many things are done. There is still so much to be done. And so after the first, the second, the third time, each time there would be a career fair, I would pass by, and it would be a little bit sad to me, because it could be something exciting, but I knew somehow inside that it was not for me. So that's how it happened to me. I knew that there was something, and I had not concrete plans about going back and where I would work. I had, got affiliated to a party there, and I had an idea that it could be the way, but it was also so distant to me. How could I get involved with politics? How can I start? How can I run for office and be supported by a party? And I didn't have money. I wasn't known. So I just kept I tried to listen to my heart, to be connected to what I thought that could be my ideal, my plan made with Heavenly Father before I came. And sometimes I didn't have a clue. Sometimes I had an impression, and then I would go back to my patriarchal blessing. But I can't say that it was all clear to me, and I tried to make good choices, and things were they happened, and I had my mind and my heart open to that. So that was my case, my circumstance, my story, and I know that it's BYU student will build his own, and it will make sense if somehow it's aligned with what we have probably talked, conversed with Heavenly Father about what we could come and do, even our failures, and I had many.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. That's an incredible insight. Um, we would like to also to ask you, how do you define success?
That is such a good question. I've been thinking about it a lot. Talked about it with my husband in the recent years. And usually, when I'm invited to speak in different places, and then people read my bio or my introduction, we all usually focus on the what we call successes, right? Accomplishments. But I know what is behind it and what needed to happen before. And the world calls that failures. And I call it now learning experiences that are not easy. Some of them are really hard. And some of those that the world would call failures were more precious to me, to my eternal journey, than what the world calls success. The things I learned and what I have become, I would attribute much more to the situations when I did not succeed as I wanted at the time, and the opposite. So success for me is to become what we came here to become as children of God, and to be able to be happy along the way. That's success.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful story. Thanks for coming on with us today and just sharing your experiences and your wisdom. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm the one to thank you. And thank you for having this podcast, and especially with this name. Because, we need to be reminded what success is really. We live in a world portrayed in social media that is so misleading, so superficial, and make people so unhappy and lost sometimes. So that is so needed. I appreciate being able to share my story with you, made with many meaningful failures.
Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for listening to our podcast this time. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you in the next podcast.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect official policy or position of Brigham Young University or The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.